known for when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century, speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Hello and welcome to Politics Tonight, where we dig and go beyond the headlines for informed analysis of major political stories in Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Controversy still surrounds the rerun governorship election in Adamawa State as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, directs the resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, to stay away from its activities. On the interview segment for today, we focus on the battle for the Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly with former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, Kazeem Afegbua, as our guest. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Stay with us. We will be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's bring you some stories shaping the polity. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has directed the resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, to stay away from all activities of the electoral umpire and the election in the state. Ari, who was the rec for the governorship election in the state, stirred controversy when he announced Aisha Binani Dahiru of the All Progressives Congress APC as the winner of the polls, which is not within its constitutional authority. The REC also erred in announcing the results of an election whose collation process had not been concluded, causing tension within the state. INEC had directed the announcement of Binani as null and void, adding that the pronouncement is of no effect. The electoral umpire also suspended the collation of results of the supplementary election in Adamawa and invited all officials involved to report back to the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. Now, some aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress APC in Bayelsa State have protested the outcome of the governorship primaries in the state. The protesters alleged that due process was not followed in deciding the final outcome. Joseph Kunde has the details.
These protesters are carrying placards with different inscriptions as thousands of APC protesters who marched through the major roads in the Yanagwa metropolis called on President Muhammadu Buhari and the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu to intervene to save Bayelsa APC from collapse. Leader of the protesters, Ndutumi Komodibo, who had led several previous protests on the matter, and other party chieftains said they would continue their protest until justice is served.
I was surprised to see results flying when there was no election. We are so disappointed, but we believe in the leadership of APC. We know that the national will do the needful. Yes. We know that the national wants to win election. Yes. We know that the national wants APC to win in this state. Yes. Therefore, we have cried enough. We have gone on electoral media to tell the national that without David Lyon, no winning in this state. Yeah. That the position or sent to the national is a nullity. Yes. As far as we are concerned. Yes. That is not from the people of Bayelsa State.
I want to call on the president-elect to intervene and ensure that the stolen mandate of APC in Bayelsa State is recovered in 2023. We still believe in the sincerity of the leadership of the APC, that justice will be done.
The protesters believe all aspirants were not given a level playing field for them to test their popularity at the polls.
Yes. I am not here to speak English. Yes. What do we want? Yes. David Lyon.
Yes. We know that we have a sellable candidate. That is why we are standing with him, come rain, come sun. Yes, we are calling our president we are calling the president-elect that he should look into Bayelsa situation, because without David Lion, we can never win election. Even the PDP are afraid of David Lion. All the parties are afraid of David Lion. So we are calling everybody that should come and make sure that the election that they stole here, they should return it to us.
Joseph Kunde, TVC News, Yanagwa.
Makadi High Court in Benue State has adjourned the suit seeking to remove Yocha Ayu as the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party to 28th of April. Ayu was suspended by the PDP ward executive officials of his Igboro Council ward in Boko local government area of Benue State after passing a vote of no confidence on him. Justice Wilfred Kochi had on March 27 issued an interim order restraining Ayu from parading himself as the national chairman of the party, pending the hearing and determination of suits. Now let's take a short break, and when we come back, it's the time to speak with our guest for the day. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, it's the time to speak with our guest for the day, who is the former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, Kazeem Afegbua, to discuss the battle for Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly. Please join us again. Thank you for joining us again. I am now joined by the former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, Kazeem Afegbua, for discussion on the battle for Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly. Thank you very much for joining us again tonight. Mr. Afegbua.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again.
It's good to see your face again. All right, so it's an interesting conversation this evening, a very crucial one. Also because the inauguration of a new administration is in a few weeks' time. So let's start this way. The composition of the 10th National Assembly after conclusion of elections, how will you describe it?
Well, it's quite interesting, and it's going to be very robust, because you have senators from PDP, Labour Party, Afegbua, and quite a number of other political parties. But APC maintains the dominance, they maintain the majority, and that's also indicative of the fact that the party was actually the party to beat in the last election, and they proved their mettle with the outcome of elections at the House of Assembly, at the House of Reps, at the Senate level, at the governorship level, and at the presidential elections. So it's quite interesting. Interesting days are ahead. We're going to see a robust interplay of forces. We're going to see a conversational, interactive, Senate, and perhaps the House of Reps.
Absolutely. So, many expected the Labour Party, after winning 11 states and Abuja, to win more seats in the federal legislature. Why did it not match its performance in the presidential election?
Well, the Labour Party were not too much interested in other elections. They were only interested in Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate. And so that was the selling product. That was, the motivator for all the obedience movement and what have you. And so I think they concentrated more energy in the aspiration of Peter Obi, leaving the House of Reps, Senate, House of Assembly, even the governorship elections, leaving it, open for APC and perhaps the PDP to feast on. If Obi had won, you have an opposition legislature, and he will be presiding over a party or a country that is dominated by APC, 20 governors, 60-something House of Senators, House of Reps over 170. And so the pattern of the election shows very clearly that APC was the most popular party in this last election, and so for that reason, they deserve to win the presidency.
All right, so Mr. Afegbua, if you say the Labour Party focused more on Peter Obi, would it be fair to say, or rather, are you impressed that the Labour Party could garner about 6 senators and 34 House of Reps members? Are you impressed or shocked?
Well, it's okay. It's okay. I'm for a House of Rep that is a mix of all the parties. We have the APC, you have the PDP, you have Labour Party, you have SDP, you have NNPP. When you have a house that is populated with persons from different political parties, different ideologies, different political persuasions, different leanings, it will help to robustly engage issues, interrogate issues from different perspectives, and the best of those issues and interrogation will come out for the overwhelming good of the people. I know the legislature is all about lawmaking, making good laws that will impact on the well-being of Nigerians. And when you talk about lawmaking, it goes through stages. You do first reading, second reading, you do public hearing before you now come around, collate all the viewpoints, and you now do a final tinkering with all the opinions that have been canvassed at the various sessions of public hearing. So when you have a robust assembly populated by persons from different political parties, bringing in their belief system, their persuasions and ideologies, it will help enrich and deepen democratic processes of lawmaking, and also help in taking, holistic decisions on issues presented to them. It will not be a straight-jacketed kind of scenario where you hear assembly being accused of being a rubber stamp assembly and all of that. Once you have people who can interrogate issues, then it helps deepen democracy. It helps enriches, the process of joy rather than war.
All right. So how will you describe the spread of seats among political parties, the highest in Nigerian history?
The spread of what?
The spread of seats among political parties.
I think the APC, from all the results we have seen after the supplementary election, we can clearly say that APC is pan-Nigeria. APC is pro-Nigeria. APC rode on the crest of a pan-Nigerian mandate, to garner votes across the country. Aside from the southeast geopolitical zone that did not give APC any opportunity of even 5 or 10% votes, every other geopolitical zone, the 5 geopolitical zones, the APC put up a very good showing. And that kind of spread is what is required for you to get the buy-in of the geopolitical zones, accommodate their various viewpoints, and be able to, use those viewpoints to form part of the basis for coming up with governmental policies that will impart on the well-being of Nigerians. So for me, the other political parties, they are welcome. It's a welcome development to have a Labour Party, having a House of Rep members, having senators. They will help to champion and put forward some of their belief systems, some of their ideologies, some of their persuasions, some of their political leanings in the legislature, in the legislative process. And you have the PDP, the main opposition party, also having some good number of senators and House of Rep members. They will also help bring on board ideas that are peculiar to them, and they will be subjected to the crucible, subjected to further interrogation, and in the process, what the Nigerian populace will be the better for it, because you are going to be having a robust assembly that is populated by persons elected on the basis of the different political parties we're talking about. So it's a welcome development, but of course you cannot undermine the spread of the APC across the country, and that's to tell you, even in the outcome of other elections, governorship, House of Rep, House of Assembly, and the Senate.
All right, so for you, how will this spread impact on achievement of unanimity? And is the National Assembly likely to be adversarial this time?
Well, the spread will help, to get viewpoints from different geopolitical zones. And the spread also will help the party and the government to know the wishes and aspirations of quite a number of people across the country, the geopolitical interests, their wishes, what they want to see in a new government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu by the time he's sworn in. The spread will also help to collate different viewpoints from the geopolitical perspective. And I quite appreciate the fact that a party that is presiding at the federal government level at the presidency is one that has elected persons from different parts of the country. Even the Southeast, what we talk about, APC has senators from the Southeast. They have House of Rep persons. It's just that I suspected that there was some kind of conspiracy, because the election of House of Rep and Senate were conducted the same day. You have the senators from the Southeast, defeating their opponents, but allowing the presidential candidate to suffer abysmal defeat in the outcome of the elections. You have a senator from the Southeast, for example, scoring about 42,000 thereabout, and in the same election, the same time, the same process, the same period, and all of that, the presidential candidate scoring as miserable as 6,000 votes. And now, you see the Southeast coming up to say they want to be Senate President, number 3 position. I found that one as hypocritical, I found that as contradictory, and I find it as untenable in terms of assessing what each and every geopolitical zone brings on the table to produce a Tinubu presidency. And so, if anybody is complaining that, oh no, they have a sense of entitlement of this position because of the tripod arrangement, I would say no. We are not going to be detained by this misleading concept of a tripod arrangement. Nigeria is made up of several ethnic multiplicity, subnationals, and in the process of balancing the political algorithms, you must take the interest, whether they are minorities, whether they are majority, whether there is no morality to want to ask for Senate presidency. Aside from the fact that they have been occupied that position 5 times, Deputy Senate Presidents for 12 years, Senate President for 8 years, that's 20 years in the 24 years of this administration. I think what they need now is President of the country and not Senate President of the 10th Assembly.
All right. So the race for the leadership of the National Assembly has begun. With more than 1 month to its inauguration, is this appropriate, or like some of the persons would like to ask, has it come too early?
No, it is very appropriate, because the business of lawmaking, the business of a parliament, and the business of a legislature comes about through lobbying, which is a fundamental process of getting people to see issues from your own perspective before you arrive at the final destination of the law that you are trying to put across to the country. So lobbying is a fundamental process by persons who will naturally want to convince people to see reasons why certain decisions must be taken. And in a plural society like Nigeria, it will take a much longer time for you to hit at that unanimity of purpose. You must be able to distillate the ideas. You must be able to network within the system. You must be able to convince persons using very cogent reasons, and subtle, persuasion to see why they should think or reason in your own way to get things done. So it is not out of place at all. By May 29th, the president will come on stream, and the National Assembly, the 10th Assembly, will be inaugurated on the 9th of January, on the 9th of June. And so once that comes on board, then the leadership of the Senate will be elected, and the business of lawmaking commences right away from that. So I'm of the opinion that more and more people should get involved in lobbying, and they shouldn't be threatening. Like I have said, like today I did a press conference under a coalition that the South-South geopolitical zone, on account of what we brought on the table for this election, should be given the opportunity to produce number 3 position. That's the Senate President of the country. We have capable hands, we have solid brains in that region. Aside from being a resource base of the country, the treasure base of the country, the South-South geopolitical zone is very strategic for the collective aspirations of Nigeria, for the constructive bargaining of issues, that form part and parcel of our governance process. And the zone is also very strategic in terms of, the overall aspirations of Nigeria. So if you keep the South-South zone peaceful, you are likely to have a peaceful governance process, because our economic hub rotates and revolves around the South-South geopolitical zone.
Well, Mr. Afegbua, the APC leadership is here to zone the positions. Will this not cause disappointment for those who are already vying for the posts?
Well, every process must start and end somewhere. There will be nothing like disappointment. The purpose for which some of us are speaking out is for the leaders of the APC political party and even the followers and supporters of the president-elect to see reason why it is very instructive, for them to consider the South-South geopolitical zone for the Senate presidency, aware that there are several other competing interests. But I've just told you that if you are coming to the table, you must come with clean hands. The South-South geopolitical zone came out with clean hands and washed their hands properly before they supported Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In the entire results of the South-South, the 6 states of the South-South, they score over 45–46%. You can't compare such a zone to another one, the Southeast, where Bola Ahmed Tinubu was scoring 5%, 3%, and all of that. So how do you reconcile that? How do you even have the guts and even the morality to come out and say you are looking for Senate presidency when you are from the Southeast, when you haven't, given so much in the process? If Tinubu did not win the election, APC will not be talking about producing a Senate president. That's the truth. So the first thing first, we have to look at what you have put on the table. And for those who are also making issues out of our secular nature as a country, they are saying that with the same faith ticket of Muslim, that other religions should be considered in, the choice of Senate President, Speaker, and other principal positions of the legislature, so that there could be some of balancing of the sentiments, of the emotions, of the idiosyncrasies, and all of that, so that in the final analysis, there will be a sense of belonging, a sense of accommodation, a sense of inclusion, by these different segments of the Nigerian populace. Bear in mind that Nigeria is a plural country, and if I want to understand the Southeast essentially, what they are clamoring for is not Senate president. They are clamoring for President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they put forward a Peter Obi who did so well, who tried all he could. But just like you said earlier, he didn't have the spread that was enough to upstage the apple cart. So in the process, he got 11 states, and the spread in the country was lacking, in his own votes collection. So for me, the South-South zone came out so strongly. Don't forget that even some states, the chairman of the PDP campaign council came from Akwa Ibom, for example, from the South-South region. The vice presidential candidate of PDP is from Delta State. Despite of these persons and personalities, APC was still able to score 45–46% of the votes in all the 6 states. In fact, even in Rivers, APC came top. And so, such a zone that has put in so much, so much sacrifice in championing the aspiration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu should naturally be given the opportunity, to present a Senate president.
All right, Mr. Afegbua. Now, if I get it clearly, you have just said that the Southeast may not be eligible to produce the Senate presidency because it did not contribute enough votes for the victory of the party. Now, because some of these people are talking about fairness and inclusiveness, is this enough reason?
Well, you see, eligibility is not the issue, because under the Constitution of Nigeria, they reserve the inalienable right to vote and be voted for in any electoral context. But the elections are over. We're talking about power sharing, power distribution. In the context of politics, you have power acquisition, which is the first process, then you go to the power acquisition. And in distributing power, you consider certain factors. First of all, you put all the issues on the table. You look at those who put in so much effort in the process of baking the cake. Then you now begin to look at the peculiarities in the different zones and even the power equation across the country based on geopolitical interest. And so by the time you look at the present scenario, I'm saying that there should be some sense of morality. You see, you didn't contribute so much to the success and the victory of your presidential candidate, number one. Number two, you contested the same election, Senate election, House of Representatives, the same day, the same time, the same process of accreditation and all of that, and you are given ballot paper. You as a senatorial candidate, you won your election with 42,000. Your presidential candidate is winning with 6,000, or in some cases 30,000, in some cases 1,800. Very ridiculous figures that tend to, undermine, the success trajectory of the man who won the election. So for me, it is better for you to put in so much energy, so much sacrifices to ensure that your presidential candidate succeeds. Then, on that basis, you will now have the guts and the morality to confront them and say, no, this is what we put on the table. We deserve this. This culture of, self-entitlement, oh, it's a tripod arrangement, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and all of that. No, Nigeria is bigger than that now. We have all manners of geopolitical interests, all manners of subnationals within the national, who are also yearning for representation. You have minority, you have majority, you have minor minority, you have major majority, and all of that. So you need to balance all of these power algorithms and power equation in ensuring that your distribution process of the power equation is fair to those who participated actively in enthroning the leadership of the country at the federal level.
All right, so not forgetting all this you have mentioned, but at the same time, if you look at the senators elected from the Southeast, will you say they have what it takes to produce the next Senate president?
Well, those who have indicated interest, are not persons who have the content and character to actually, preside over a lawmaking house. You need to, do some level of interrogation, of where they are coming from, who they are, and whether they are able to be nationalistic in their orientation, whether they are not detained by parochial interests, whether they are not detained by ethnic jingoism, kind of, in the way and manner they have related with the power process in the last 2 months, particularly February 25th, 2023. So if I want to go back to what I said earlier, I will, tell you right away that a man who contested the same election with a candidate the same day, the same hour, the same time, scoring 42,000, for example, and I'm making his presidential candidate to score 2,000 or 1,500, 1,800, thereabout, is not, honest enough, to preside over a lawmaking house. I would rather want to see a pro-Nigerian, pan-Nigerian mind, an orientation that, is driven and motivated by, by patriotism, national patriotism, building a national cohesion and deepening national conversation, kind of person in choosing who presides over the Senate. So within the Southeast, They are essentially driven by their parochial interests, that's those senators of the APC, by their own, how will I call it now, ethnic, consideration, rather than looking at the bigger picture. And look at the presidential candidate of the APC and the president-elect. He was defeated in Lagos State, his home state. He was defeated in Osun State from the Southwest Zone. That is a robust way of appreciating democracy and the intricacies of it, of elections. And now you see that coming back to the South, it became more or less like a block. Nobody could score 5 or 10% in all the parties. Only one party dominated the whole fulcrum of the election and the entire process. So for me, I would rather that the Southeast devote more energy and time in continuously championing their aspiration to become president of this country. A president-elect is already in place. They should wait for 2027, 2031, 2036, and 35. And in that order, so that when they plan, they will be able to get it someday. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a product of planning and strategic thinking. And he plotted this graph since 1999 that he was going to be president of Nigeria someday. And in doing that, he built a network of influence across different political parties. At some point, he related with the CPC. He ran his own opposition, ACN, AD. Follow that trajectory. And before they now gave birth to a merger of APC in 2014 that midwife the process that brought in President Buhari, who had contested 3 previous elections and failed. And so his fourth trial became the success story. So for me, such kind of planning is what the Southeast needs to do. They should stop pursuing Senate President speakership position. They should plan strategically and make sure they mass their own support together to ensure that they are able to get a credible Nigerian who can, go the whole round and build network of influence across the country and not being parochial in terms of their ethnic consideration. And reach out to everybody, see Nigeria as a huge enterprise, see it as their constituency, and pursue it without being detained by religion or ethnicity.
All right. Thank you very much. I've been discussing the battle for Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly. The former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, Kazeem Afegbua. We'll take a break now, and I will be right back. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're discussing the battle for Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly with the former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, Kazeem Afegbua. Mr. Afegbua, now let's go on. You've been making a case for the South since the start of the show, and I must say that you're not alone. Some analysts are also making a case for the South to produce the next Senate president. Tell me more.
Don't forget that I'm from the South.
I know.
I always like to put my interests in the front burner of national discourse so that people can see exactly what we are talking about. And in doing that, I'm also conscious of the role of other geopolitical zones. The Northwest, for example, also putting so much support in the elections of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether you like it or not. In fact, the northern governors of the APC are to me the heroes of this democracy because they insisted that power must shift to the southern part of the country to reduce or minimize the level of schisms and political bad blood that has dominated public discourse in recent times. And so after 8 years of a President Buhari, they felt that it was only natural and fair to allow the South to produce a candidate. And that was why Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged as the candidate of the APC. With that kind of mindset, I want to commend the northern governors, those who are leaving office and those who are returning, that they understand, they read the mood of the country rightly by ceding that presidency to the southern part of the country to build stability, to build cohesion, to build deepen democracy, so that everyone will have a sense of belonging. Now, having gotten to that stage, it is now left for us to begin to agitate for what we think will be seen and considered as fair in the way and manner that power is distributed across the country. I've told you earlier on that with the same faith ticket and all of that, it will be fair enough to have, people of other religion, occupy the position of Senate President, even the speakership of the Assembly and all that. You can bring in, depending on what the party thinks is right. But the party must be conscious, deliberately, to understand these sentiments and these emotions, because they've been promoted to some level that is disturbing, to the psyche of the average Nigerian. If you look at some of the candidates for the presidential election, some of them took it on the basis of pro-Christian, campaign, some, pro-ethnic campaign and all of that. That shouldn't be the thinking in this contemporary age of Nigeria. We should be looking at Nigeria holistically and play religion, at the background. But as much as you want to see that kind of scenario, it is not going away. The discussions every day, open newspapers, open magazines, listen to radio discourse, television discourse. All you hear is all about religion, balancing, this balancing, that balancing. And because of our secular status, you need to also factor in some of these issues, because democracy and government will only flourish well if there is stability, there is tranquility, and there is a buy-in of the civil populace in whatever you are doing. If you come up with a policy and you don't get the right people to drive that policy, it's going to hit the Golgotha. And so, a government that is conscious of its own role and that is ready to deliver on electoral promises must balance all the centripetal and the centrifugal forces, create that aggregate interest that will help every geopolitical zone to have a sense of belonging. So my position on the southern part of the country, the south-south geopolitical is the critical role that the south-south occupies. The critical position of the south-south as the economic hub of the country. You see, you talk about refineries, you talk about pipelines and all of that. They all take their origin from the south-south region. You need to keep them within that bracket. That yes, we appreciate the fact that this is the economic hub of the country, the treasure base and all of that. We also factor in your political interests and all of that. So if you have a Senate President number 3 position coming from that zone, it will help to put pay to all the cries of marginalization, agitations here and there. And in the final analysis, help to create that stability that you need for the country to grow. Whether you like it or not, if there is tremor, political turmoil in the south-south region, it will also distract from our economic well-being. Whether you like it or not. These are the realities in the Nigerian context, and we are saying that this is just an appeal. We are not threatening anybody. We are not saying you must do this, no. But we are saying that the political party APC must put into consideration some of these factors, some of these issues, in balancing the political algorithms across the country with respect to South-South geopolitical zone as the economic hub, as the treasure base of the country. And doing that will help to create some level of stability and tranquility.
So, Mr. Afegbua, we also have some senators from the Northwest Zone who are interested in the Senate presidency. How do you see this?
Well, it will be a scar, it will cast a slur, on the credibility of the APC as a brand for anybody from the Northwest to be considering occupying the position of Senate President. Before now, when the same faith ticket came on stream, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect, and his vice, Kashim Shettima, when they came on stream on the same faith ticket, I remember that quite a number of persons left the APC. You have a Daniel Buwala, you have a Babachilawa, you have Yakubu Dogara. You have quite a number of persons who, even though you even have Najatu Muhammad, who went on the streets telling all manners of lies on the basis of same faith ticket and saying that, but at the end of the day, they were political Lilliputians who couldn't deliver even their polling units and what. But in their narration, they were talking about Islamization agenda, and that is also very fundamental. So we need to disabuse their minds by that Islamization agenda by ensuring that we have a Christian or other religions occupying Senate President, speakership position and all of that in the interest of national peace and prosperity. I'm not going to begrudge the northwest zone of their aspiration, but I'm saying that they must see reasons, deliberately and consciously, to be able to move the wheel of progress forward. As a country, as a plural country like Nigeria, with so many interests competing for attention, issue of religion is becoming the opium, by which a lot of persons take decisions, a lot of persons show solidarity and alliances. But in this context, with the same fair ticket, president and vice president elect, when they become number one and number two citizens, it's just natural that you give the other religions the opportunity to produce number three and number four candidates. It will be more collective in terms of assessment rather than being individualistic because of your own selfish and self-serving interests. In the interest of nation building, in the interest of accommodation and inclusion, you need to balance all of these factors.
All right, so that's fair enough. All right, so let me also get your take on this. Do you think first-time lawmakers should be allowed to contest for principal positions, including Senate President or House of Representatives Speaker?
You said which lawmaker?
Do you think first-time lawmakers should be allowed to contest for principal positions, including Senate President or House of Representatives Speaker? First-time lawmakers.
Well, it depends. Well, I think because it's a lawmaking house, when you say lawmaking, it's a lawmaking house. There is always a precedence, and whatever they do must be seen in the eyes of the law to be credible, to be transparent, to be honest, and far away from all manners of subterfuge, subterranean influence, and what have you. So the Senate and the House of Rep have standing rules, I'm told. So if you are a first-timer, the rule does not, support their aspiration to the number one position or number two position, as the case may be, or the principal position. And the logic behind this is very simple. When you say senator, a senator in 1992, who is becoming a senator now, is already a ranking senator, because in the parliament, senators are not to be considered as former senator. There's nothing like former senator. A senator is a senator. And the concept of that rule is that it's a senator who will swear in the senator-elect. So senator-elect is not yet a senator until he's sworn in. And it is the Senate President who swears in every other senator-elect. So that's where the concept of ranking comes in. Because you have been a senator, you are called a senator. You are not called a senator-elect. Even if you are coming second time, third time, fourth time, you are just called a senator. Until you are sworn in as a first-timer, you are a senator-elect. Kanu Agabi suffered the same fate. But if you are sworn in as a senator, and you have become part of the House, and there is an issue of impeachment of the Senate President, or Deputy Senate President, or Speaker, or Deputy Speaker, a senator-elect who has been sworn in to become a senator is qualified to aspire for that position. That was what happened in the case of Senator Ken Nnamani, in 2003, 2004. So that way, he's already a senator in the House, in the Senate, and is qualified to run. But in the context of swearing in, the first assignment, a senator who is ranking has advantage over a senator-elect, who is the first time.
All right. Now, how does the APC ensure that this contest does not lead to divisions in the party, especially if some members defied the zoning agreements of the party to contest the Senate President?
Well, the politics of the APC in this 10th assembly and even in the governance process will be a different ballgame. You have a president-elect that that is a team player, a president-elect that's a politician, having also been a senator in 1990, 1991, 1992. He has been a governor. He understands the rubrics of politics. He understands the idiosyncrasies, the undercurrent elements, and all of that. So he's going to robustly engage quite a number of persons, factors, forces, and issues before decisions are reached. He's going to get involved. Don't forget that the APC called him national leader before he became elected as president-elect. That means he's going to robustly engage with the party. He's going to dialogue. He's going to interact. He's going to engage with quite a number of persons in the party and let them see reasons why they must go as a collective. Don't forget that the opposition, particularly in the House of Reps, are locking behind. Because if you look at the figures of APC as a party and the opposition parties, I think the figures are skewed. The figures are skewed in favor of the opposition party in the House of Reps. It's only in the Senate that there's outright majority by the ruling party, the APC. And so, in reaching at leadership positions, in balancing the equations, the president-elect, when he becomes president, is going to reach out to everyone. He's going to also give reasons why they must, robustly engage the issues and why they must see reasons why he's taking a particular line of action. But what must be overriding in the whole context must be national interest, a deep sense of patriotism, and an understanding that there has to be inclusion, there has to be balancing of the political algorithms, and an understanding that there has to be participation by every geopolitical zone. Even as I say this, the Southeast will definitely still play a role. You can't ignore a zone. Every zone will be accommodated in the whole context of federal character, whether you like it or not. They will have ministers, they have chairmen of parastatals and what have you, to be part and parcel of the power process that will help the president-elect to deliver on his electoral promise to the overwhelming majority of Nigerians. So
I asked this question because you remember in 2015, Bukola Saraki contested against the choice of the party and won. Do you see history repeating itself this time?
We had a president in 2015, the outgoing president Muhammadu Buhari, who was non-committer, was a non-participant in the process that threw up Bukola Saraki. So there were some persons who were plotting democratic coup, so to speak, on the one hand, while the party was being led by a leadership that was completely atrophied by the kind of realities that stared it in the face. If the party had stood its ground, and was able to reach out to all the factors that were at play, there won't be that kind of Saraki scenario. But along the line, the party went to sleep. The neck of the party never met. The NWC were not meeting. We had a leadership that was not proactive enough. What happened. But in this case, in this present scenario, you are not going to have that kind of situation because you are having a proper politician, an activist who has seen it all, who fought the military to birth this democracy. You must continuously give Bola Ahmed Tinubu that credit for being the front runner, the arrowhead of the struggle for democracy in 1999. And today we are enjoying all of that gains.
All right. Because of time, let's also, touch on the House of Representatives. Talking about the race for the House of Reps speakership, how will you describe it?
Well, the same factors that go for the Senate should also be considered in the House of Reps. I want to support a clarion call for, a speaker from other religion aside from the Muslim configuration of the present presidency, of the incoming presidency. I would rather plead with them that as much as they have very popular candidates, you have Wase, you have Betara from the Northeast Zone, we have quite a number of other persons, you have a woman from the Southeast, please considered balancing the issues of religion and sentiments and emotions surrounding all of that, and also ensure that people, geopolitical interests are, considered on the basis of understanding, on the basis of persuasion, on the basis of appeal, and not necessarily forcing anything down their throat. Because the House of Reps is usually boisterous because younger elements of Nigerians are populated in the House of Reps, oftentimes. So they are boisterous, there are traditions, there are scenarios where persons have even jettisoned their party position to contest for leadership of the House of Reps, and they stayed through the course. Afegbua was one of those persons. What is it called? Dogara was another, and all of that. So it is just going to be an appeal that we need to consciously and deliberately take decisions that to please, calm the frayed nerves that presently, dominate public discourse in Nigeria. We need to continue calm the tempers, the angers in the land. We need to consciously ensure that we carry people along so that they see themselves as part and parcel of the process, so that this concept of ownership structure that has become a thorny issue in this country will not continue to drive our national discourse.
All right, so to be a bit specific, the likes of Wase Gagdi and Dogua are leading the race for the Reps speakership. What can you say of these individuals?
Well, Wase is from North Central Zone. I don't mind if the North Central Zone is given speakership, but there should be a consideration of other religions. And I'm saying this advisedly because of the peculiarities and the discussions that are going across board, the tempers, the angers in the land. When you listen to some pastors, the kind of pronouncement they make, the kind of declarations they are making, you tend to think that, oh my God, without you, this thing, heaven will fall in the next minute. We must, try and see how we can accommodate those sentiments, those kind of emotions that are not going to help us, to grow. So the president-elect, when he becomes president and sworn in on the 29th of May, must try to cut the leadership of, both Senate and House of Reps, those who are from the APC, and even others who are from other parties, for them to please, drive this whole vehicle of national progress in a manner that, we will not drive it to Golgotha, we will not drive it to a predetermined end of failure. We want success at all levels, we want stability, we want cohesion, we want conversation, we want dialogue. The only way you can, see the beauty of democracy is when the government in place has a stable atmosphere to discharge its responsibility as contained in his mandate and covenant to the people. Once you are not able to get this, then you will be busy solving one problem after the other, the issues of impeachment, counter-impeachment, and all of this will slow down the wheel of progress. But I trust Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be a man of great intellect, to be a strategist par excellence, to be a man who is a team player, who can network himself around the rubrics of the legislature and every other segment of the Nigerian society to create that stability of process, stable environment that will help him to drive and deliver on his electoral promises.
All right, so because you mentioned this earlier, we're actually out of time, but quickly, because you mentioned this earlier, and I would like to hear you say it as it is, President Buhari did not initially show interest in the National Assembly leadership. Do you think the President-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, should take such a stance too?
Yes, I can bet you that the President-elect, being who he is, as a strategist, as a politician of note, as a man who can robustly engage issues, who loves the resource of dialogue, is going to get himself involved because it's all about party. There's party supremacy in every contest, in everything you do. There's party supremacy. There is the need for the party to insist. Don't forget that Adams Oshomole insisted that the party under his leadership must produce a candidate of the party as Senate President. And that was what gave birth to Ahmed Lawan. And for 4 years, Ahmed Lawan has been able to stabilize, with the Senate without being cantankerous. Aside from those who were trying to railroad him into the presidential contest, Ahmed Lawan was a good guy. In fact, even though he ended the Senate as a rubber stamp assembly, the quality of laws they were able to put in place, even the amendment to the Constitution that the President has been able to sign, is actually a product of the symbiotic relationship that existed between Ahmed Lawan-led Senate and the Presidency under President Muhammadu Buhari. So the party must play its role, just like Adam Soshomole insisted then. And in this case, once the leadership meets, the NWC and the neck of the party, they will take decisions, and those decisions must be binding on every member of that party, because the party is driven by a constitution that is subscribed to by anyone who wants to belong to that party.
Thank you very much. We will definitely continue this conversation because we still have a lot to talk about. But I must thank you very much, Mr. Kazeem Afegbua, former Commissioner for Information in Edo State, as we discuss the battle for Senate presidency for the 10th National Assembly. Thank you always for your brilliant, blazing submissions. And call me an agitator for South Senate presidency. You'll be right. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at CVCNewsNG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Goodbye.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill. And if he doesn't go out for practice?